Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dallas Hoops Fancast, a podcast for Mavs fans. I'm your host, Sydney. I'm here with my co-host, Martin.
Hey, guys.
You can follow the show on Twitter at Dallas Hoopscast. You can follow me on Twitter at _Sydney Myers. And this is big. This is huge. Martin is now on Twitter.
And I'm not really sure how I feel about it as of yet.
Well, you're only like 10 years late. So by the time you figure it out, we'll all be on like something else.
The thing I've noticed, though, is during a Mavs game, every time there's a commercial break, you go straight to Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I opened my Twitter account, and the first Mavericks game against the Grizzlies, on commercial break, the first thing I do is go straight to Twitter.
And there's like 200 tweets.
So I made a promise to myself in the second half.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to look at Twitter until after the game was over.
That's what I started doing too. I would check it like during the commercial break. Well,
sometimes we're in the middle of a conversation. I didn't realize I was talking to myself the whole time.
Well, during the game, I try not to look at it because what happens is...
Need to try a lot harder.
Because what happens is I realize, like, wait a minute, I'm watching the game. I don't need Twitter to tell me what happened. But I think if there's something frustrating, I tend to be on Twitter more because it's that kind of like community sort of therapeutic thing where you can just sort of vent. And like sometimes as fans, we say crazy things and, you know, there's no need to overreact with it. We're kind of just in our feelings in the moment. And it's kind of just, it's nice to have that community. But I'm the same way. I
feel like you just use that as an opportunity
to talk about myself.
Let's move on from Twitter.
Hi, I'm Sydney. Have we met yet? Do the full intro. Okay. Yes, so Martin is on Twitter. I didn't even say your screen name. It's at Martin L. Myers. So, yeah. Follow him. Give him a warm welcome. Don't make him feel bad for being late to the party. You know, you're probably never going to beat me in followers because I have already like 300. I mean,
I'm not trying to.
Well, good, because it's a.
Okay, so the Mavericks played.
Also, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
You can listen to new episodes and read exclusive articles at DallasHoopsCast.com. Where you can also read the latest breaking news about the Mavericks from around the web and start shopping for Mavericks gear and tickets. DallasHoopsCast.com. Okay, let's get started. So, Mavs beat the Grizzlies last night. Good win. The Mavs are now number 1 in the league in offensive rating.
After two... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. I'm used to you interrupting.
Well, their offense against the Knicks and the Magic, after those two games, they dropped from first and went all the way to third. And then, you know, they're right back at first again after 138 they dropped against Memphis.
Yeah, they're scoring 116.3 points per game, which is 6th in the league. Number 1 offensive rating. Their defensive rating they're 17th right now. They're allowing 111.9, which is 20th in the league. So I mean, they're not
last.
They're not last.
Yeah, so
you know? I mean, they're not even, you know, like 25th even. I would feel bad about, but 20, it's like okay.
There's room for improvement there.
Yeah, but it's not like there's no hope.
No.
You know, there's room for improvement. I mean, you bump that up 10, you know, you're like that's 10 away from being top 10. I'm really trying to look at the bright side here. But yeah, their defense has been pretty bad. They literally just cannot stop anybody inside. Even in the Memphis game, where Memphis isn't even that good. I mean, they have Jonas inside. Guys like Jaren Jackson can get inside, but it's not like they have a great team. And even then, it was like the Mavs just could not stop them at all.
It's kind of like the beginning of last year where they were allowing an all-time record of opponents' three-point percentage.
Yeah.
They were shooting like 50% or something from three against the Mavericks. And this year, like, for example, Julius Randle was shooting 17% from three. Plays the Mavericks. He hits like, I think 2 or 3 of them, which he probably hadn't hit consecutive threes in a game all season. So it's things like that I think there's room for improvement, better closeouts, better defensive scheming. And in the second half of the season, they did a really good job.
Yeah.
They dropped from last in the league to, I think, top 10 or something like that in overall three-point percentage. Yeah. So they can improve, but they're not the worst in the league, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I think like this year it's not, I haven't noticed so much that teams are on fire from three. It's the interior defense.
Well, yeah.
And it's like, we were talking about this last night during the game, like Dwight Powell guys just get whatever they want against him. And it's like, it's so frustrating because he's there, he's in a stance, he bodies them up, he goes straight up, he's strong, he's athletic. I mean, physically he has everything. You look at the way that he defends, he does everything right, but it's like, guys, just everything goes in against him.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't notice the interior defensive problems until Dwight came back. Before that, when it was...
probably Maxi and
I can't think today. Yeah, Porzingis and Maxi as your front court guys, I thought they did fine. But Dwight Powell, like you said, provides zero resistance. He's too small, really, to guard any post-up players. But he's too big to guard any wings. So he's just kind of out there. And I feel bad for him because sometimes he does a great job of being there, putting his hands up, whatever. But he's such a little resistance because he doesn't have the greatest wingspan.
I guess.
Whatever. And so when the player scores on him anyways, he's always has this look on his face like, oh my God. And I feel terrible for him.
Last night against the Grizzlies was the first time.
He got destroyed.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the first time that I've seen Carlisle actually, to me, it looked like he took Powell out of the game, not just for rest or anything, but because he was so bad. Like, usually Powell just plays his minutes no matter what. But last night, it looked like, Carlisle was actually taking him out because he just wasn't
Well, he didn't even start.
Yeah.
I mean, Boban started because Dwight provides zero resistance to guys that are bigger than him and that can post up. And Valanciunas, although he's not
guy.
Tim Duncan out there, he would have, and he did destroy Powell in the second half.
Anytime Powell was on the court, you could see it. They were going right at him. They were just picking on him. And it's like, so when you look at the defensive numbers, like Kleber, at least according to the numbers, is a better defender. And I think we also agree with that. The eye test. So, like, for example, his defensive box plus minus, where you want to have a higher number, which seems backwards. It seems like you want to have a lower number, but I had to look that up myself. But anyways, Maxi Kleber is better in that regard. Also, in defensive rating, Kleber has a higher defensive rating than Dwight Powell. So it's like he is a better defender. And, we're going to talk about lineups later on in this episode. But, yeah, it's like right now their defense is just terrible. And it's the interior. It's like Powell they get whatever they want against him.
But, at least we have a really good offense. So we're still able to, if not win.
Yeah.
I mean, we are 6-3. And I know it's not the best,
the way
hardest
they got
schedule.
there.
Yeah. And we've lost some games we should have won. And we won some games that really in the past we would have lost. So it's been kind of a weird first 9 games of the season. But, we'll see how they go. If they improve their defense, even where they're top 15, I mean, you're looking at a really scary team.
Yeah. I tweeted this last night. There's been some extremely frustrating things about this season that are still there, that haven't gone away, and we're going to talk about some of them. But for all the frustrating things, there have been things on the complete opposite end of the spectrum that are just amazing. Like, they've had some awful losses, like against the Knicks, but then they have Luka Magic, who's just amazing to watch. They have like the worst interior defense. They just cannot get a stop, but then sometimes their offense just looks amazing. So it's like it's sometimes seems so inconsistent, but in the end, they have Luka and Porzingis, and so they just end up scoring more points. But like I said, there's a few things that are kind of frustrating. We're going to talk about starting lineups, rotations. There's things that, I don't know, that we've noticed that fans have also noticed too. So we're going to go into that. And then also talk about their upcoming schedule, which kind of gets a little rough, but we'll see what to expect from that. And a couple of other things about Luka possibly being in the MVP conversation. But first, you brought up earlier when we were talking about this, how despite the win against the Grizzlies, which was a huge comeback win, not comeback, but a bounce back win, there's still some things that happened against the Knicks that we don't want to
ignore.
Ignore. And it's not, I mean, I tweeted this last night, like I was really happy for the team that they bounced back and came together and won that game against the Grizzlies, and one of the way they did, the way that they blew them out, I think that says a lot about them. But some of those issues that caused them to lose against the Knicks might still be there and might still be a problem. One of them, you want to start with starting lineups and rotations?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of like usually the start of every season where all the fans and even the media, even though they act like, they're not thinking about it or they don't see the same thing. It seems like Carlisle just does some things that are like head scratchers.
Yeah.
And then some things that you feel like are so freaking obvious. It never happens.
Yeah.
And we're just like, what are we doing here? And we just don't understand. And it seems like it takes him 20 games before he finally makes a change on what he's going to do. And I think last year it was that loss against the Knicks at home that he finally realized, okay, Luka's got to have the ball the majority of the time.
He must have heard you
screaming at him and embarrassing us.
Yeah.
And so, with this season, the issue is with the rotations and then the shots. Who's getting shots? And we've had issues with people that we feel like should be getting shots, like Porzingis and like Seth Curry.
Yeah.
That weren't getting shots or aren't getting shots as effective or as much as we want them to. And then players that are getting shots a lot that we don't understand why.
Yeah.
Like Tim Hardaway. I like Tim Hardaway. I do. He's a great teammate and he's a nice guy to have on the team. But he should never have 35 shots and Seth Curry have 0.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Curry and Hardaway in particular is one of the things that frustrates people the most. And it's so interesting to me because they have put such an emphasis on creating good looks from 3-point range. And I think a lot of times they do a good job of that. But then it's like, well, if that's your goal, then I feel like you should want Curry to be out there because he's like right now their best 3-point shooters are Justin Jackson, who's shooting 47%, Seth Curry, who's shooting 41%, and DeLon Wright, who's shooting 40%. Just because they're good 3-point shooters doesn't mean they're amazing in every other way. There could be some other deficiency that Carlisle doesn't like. But like Seth Curry, for example, I feel like, for the scheme that you want to run, I feel like he fits that. It's confusing to me that he doesn't start or get more minutes. And he's projected to start against the Celtics.
And he has started a lot this season. That's not really the problem. Like, he's had games like against the Knicks where he played like 12 minutes. That's it.
Or like 7 or something.
No, the game before that against the Magic, he played 7 minutes.
Yeah. He
started, I believe, against the Magic. Or it was Courtney. Whatever. Either way, Courtney Lee was in there somewhere that should never have been in there.
Yeah, and then Courtney Lee, we'll get into that later.
So, and then he just, sometimes he'll start, doesn't play again. It's like, I guess because in those first 5 minutes, he didn't get a shot.
Yeah.
That it's not his night, so we're just going to go away from that. And I don't like that. I don't know what advanced analytics they're looking at to make them feel like that Tim Hardaway Jr. is a better option at getting more and more shots. Whatever it is, they need to reevaluate because when you look at the game, you're like, okay, why is this guy shooting YOLO shots from 35 feet and Seth Curry is playing 12 minutes?
Yeah, the only thing I could find was, so obviously Seth Curry is a better shooter. He's shooting, like I said, 41 on threes. Tim Hardaway is shooting 35. Overall, Curry is shooting 43.5. Tim Hardaway is shooting 38% overall. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has a higher or a better defensive rating than Seth Curry. So I don't know. That might be part of what they're looking at of why he gets more minutes. But yeah, again, it's like, it's weird to me that Curry is such a good 3-point shooter and yet he's not getting.
Yeah. And against the Memphis Grizzlies, he got a lot of shots. He got 12. He didn't shoot particularly well the second half, but he started off the game nicely, and it was nice to see.
Yeah, I want to point out, so just a couple more things on that. I looked at some lineups. So I looked at 3-man lineups and I looked at 5-man lineups. Not necessarily starting lineups, but just lineups.
Just lineups, yeah.
So the 3-man lineup of Curry, Luka, and Porzingis, which I think is the one that we all want to see.
Wants,
and then 2 other, whoever you want to play them with. They've played 86 minutes together. They have a net rating of -0.4. So
it's not that
good.
low, yeah.
Yeah. Their best 5-player lineups that have played at least 10 minutes total this season. Their best one is actually, I would say, a bench lineup. It's Hardaway, Powell, Wright, Jackson, and Brunson. That net rating is 42.5, which is outrageously high and like probably an anomaly. But the second best lineup is Curry, Powell, Porzingis, Brunson, and Doncic. They've played 15 minutes together. They have a net rating of 6.5. And again, that's their second best 5-man lineup that's played at least 10 minutes together.
Yeah, but net rating is also who they're going against, right?
True. Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's a combination of how many points you score versus how many points are scored against you, essentially.
So that can vary from... I mean, you would really need a large sample size in order to see.
It's so early.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think that...
I mean, like, my point is that I think there are some numbers that say that Curry, like, maybe Hardaway should get more minutes, like the defensive rating and like that net rating of Curry, Luka, and Porzingis. But then there's some numbers that say Curry should get more minutes because of his shooting and because of the net rating of that 5-man lineup.
So, I think what it all boils down to with me is the way Carlisle coaches and the way he does his rotation. It shows that he doesn't trust certain players and he trusts some more than others.
Yeah.
For example, if Seth Curry isn't having a great game to start the game,
he's out.
He's out.
Just like that. Yeah.
Just because whatever. You don't trust that Curry, who throughout his whole career can get on fire at any moment. You don't trust that he's going to do that. He's done. We're not going to play him again.
Yeah.
He's not going to impact this game, which you do not know that. At any moment, a guy can hit fire.
Well, and Curry's not even the kind of guy that needs to get on fire.
No,
he's
he just
a
needs to get
solid
open
player.
shots.
Yeah.
Yes, he's consistent.
Yeah.
But then other players who aren't playing well, for example, Tim Hardaway Jr., he could be playing terribly. We keep riding him.
Yeah.
We have yet to see a moment where Tim Hardaway Jr. is sucking in the game. Just having a bad game. Get pulled and not play again.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen with him. He's always going to go back in there. So Carlisle trusts whatever the analytics or the player himself. He's going with his gut, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's just not it's not the way you want to, it's not the message you want to send to your players. Yeah. You don't trust him. And it's the whole thing with his timeouts. He's very quick to call a timeout. A team can score 2 baskets in a row. Boom, timeout.
He's very predictable.
And we can predict it. As soon as they score, before he calls a timeout, we're like, timeout. Because we know. And we've seen the frustration on Luka. Sometimes they call a timeout too quickly, and he is just frustrated because he wants to give them an opportunity to play through it. Let them continue to fight because teams are going to go on runs. So that's the thing. He coaches analytics. He doesn't coach players.
Yeah, I would, and to your point about trusting players or not trusting other players, I think that's kind of just a trend that we notice. Like, for example, I said earlier how Powell got yanked out of the game last night, and that was the first time I've seen that happen with Powell. Usually Powell gets his minutes regardless, no matter what. Yeah. Same with like Dorian Finney-Smith. Now I've come to appreciate Finney-Smith and what he does after doing the research for that article about like what do the Mavs see in him. I now see it. I see what they see in him, and so. But he's not always on, but yet he's generally going to get his minutes. And then we saw this the past 3 or 4 years, and I hate to bring this up, but with Wesley Matthews, he was going to get his minutes no matter what. And so it's like with some guys, they can do whatever they want on the court, and they're going to play their 20, 25, 30 minutes, whereas other players, they have a bad stretch of 3 or 4 minutes and they're out. And maybe they're out of the rotation for the next 5 games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, it's kind of crazy. I mean, and it's one of those things, like, I think Carlisle is a good coach overall. I'm not calling for him to get fired or anything. But I think you can be somewhere in the middle. I don't think just because a fan or just because we say these negative things about Carlisle, it doesn't mean that we're like irrational. We want him to be fired and we're idiots or something. No. It's like I'm pointing out something that's frustrating that's
easily fixable.
Yeah, that I wish it wasn't like that.
Well, and like I said, my problem with him is that he does not take into account how a player feels about
Yeah.
a situation. And I know that sounds really childish, but we're dealing with human beings.
Yeah, they're just people.
Yeah.
you know?
And so, especially this team, this is not a veteran team. This is a really young team. So, the way the 2010 2011 Mavericks responded when Deshaun Stevenson all of a sudden lost his starting job and JJ was inserted into the starting lineup, he responded differently because he'd been in the league for 10. He understands.
Yeah.
You have a younger team that doesn't quite understand what he's doing and making all these lineup changes. And he doesn't take into consideration how they feel. And we saw, case in point, when Porzingis was really struggling a couple games ago.
Yeah.
He hit a three. He hadn't made a shot all game. He's been playing terrible.
Yeah.
Made a three, took him out his normal rest. And it's like, well, that's an opportunity to let him stay in there and continue to play. And he doesn't take into consideration. And we've seen it so many times when a player gets taken out of the game and the camera goes to them and they're confused. They're like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
When it's like he has this gut about something. He needs to put somebody else in there because he thinks something else is going to run better. And I just don't think that's a good idea with a young team. And I feel like, if he continues to do that, he'll lose the locker room. Now that's really dramatic.
Yeah.
But it's possible. These guys aren't Dirk. Okay. He's not coaching Dirk anymore.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't want to overreact to it at this point because it's so early in the season, but
we've seen the frustration on the players' faces.
Yeah. And I do think that it's kind of like, I said to myself before the season started that I'm not going to get frustrated by Carlisle's things because he does things that frustrate the crap out of me. Overall, I think he's a good coach, but it's just these things bother me so much. And it's hard to not, even though I said that to myself, I still get frustrated about this stuff. And I think, the issue that fans have with the lineups and the rotations, I think that's going to continue. I mean, Carlisle himself said that the lineups and rotations are going to be fluid.
And I just don't understand that. Like, I don't understand that at all. Like, why can't we just do
start your
what
best
all
players.
other teams in the NBA do? You have a set starting lineup. Sometimes that set starting lineup is not your go-to. It's not your best lineup.
It's not your closing
but
lineup
it
even.
creates continuity, familiarity. You know what your lineup is going to be. The players know what minutes they're going to get from game to game. You don't have all this confusion. They know what they're going to do. They know what they're going to play. And with the starting lineup, it's like every team, every coach in the league has a set starting lineup.
Yeah.
Why do we have to do something different? Like, we have players that should start and we have players that should come off the bench. Why don't you just do that?
Yeah.
Get a set lineup. And do you really have to do this much experimentation with the players or whatever he does in order to find this out?
Well, and it's so weird. Like, one of the things he said is that he's going to choose a starting lineup based on the best matchup for that team they're currently playing. And so that is going to change from team to team. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then it's weird that we know, okay, that's the strategy, or at least that's what we think the strategy is. So then to start Courtney Lee and play him like 4 minutes or 7 minutes, it's like,
is he the best player for that match?
If that was the best matchup, why did he only play 5 minutes?
Yes.
Like that's one of those things that it's not even like frustrating. It's just bizarre to me. I don't understand that. And I mean, there's probably a lot of things I don't know, but it's so weird. Things like that. It's weird to watch.
It's unnecessary. Just have a starting lineup. And just have your bench unit rotation. I understand that might change as the game goes on. Like, let's say your bench comes in, they're on fire. And normally you would take them out at a certain time, but because they're playing so well, you keep them in for a little bit longer. That's what a regular coach would do.
Yeah.
But even if a player's on fire, he's still going to come out at his regular time, unless it's a player he likes.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things that it's just frustrating. And like I said, I don't think it's going to, I think it's just going to be this way for the whole season. I mean, honestly, they're 6-3. So I feel like I shouldn't complain. And it's like, I'm not complaining about the result like this, like their record isn't good enough to me. It's frustrating when you're watching the game. Like if you just were to look at the box score or the win-loss total, then like, yeah, it wouldn't bother you. But for, when fans watch the games, it's just, these are the things that are frustrating to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some games I think they probably lost because
Maybe.
of some of these questionable decision making that they've had.
So a question about games they've lost and why. That game against the Knicks, really nobody outside of Porzingis and Curry played well at all. I think there were multiple players that had donuts. They just did not even
Or 1
score.
point,
Yeah,
3
or had
points.
1
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Against the Grizzlies, they really bounced back and the whole team contributed really well. Do you think that was a fluke, what happened to the Knicks, or do you think this is going to be a storyline where their role players just sometimes don't show up?
No, I think that just happens. Role players, sometimes you just have teams that do that. And that's why having stars really helps. Now, what would help the Mavericks is if they had a third primary playmaker.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the third leading scorer, just a third guy that can make plays. And I felt like the Knicks game, much like the Magic game, they really could have used JJ.
Yeah.
I feel like JJ is a third primary. Well, he is.
He is.
We've
yeah.
seen it.
Yeah.
He can be that third guy. When he comes off the bench, JJ against those Knicks, he wouldn't have had a donut.
No.
He would have recognized what was going on, and he would have made plays to make sure, just like he did against the Magic.
Yeah.
I know he had a lot of adrenaline going against the Magic because it was his first game.
But
that's
good
what he
player.
does.
That's not the first time he's done that.
JJ is an all-star when he's on the court. Now,
Yeah.
because of his size, he can't be on the court for 30 minutes or 35 minutes a game, and he can't do that throughout an 82-game stretch. His body can't handle it. But when he is on the court, JJ is an all-star. The way he makes plays, sometimes he's unstoppable, and he carves up defenses. I thought he earned his minutes back whenever he came in and played against the Magic and helped them win. I felt like against the Knicks, JJ would have been that third guy to help carry the load from Porzingis and Luka, who were on fire and nobody else was doing anything. I felt like JJ would have been able to do that. I don't know if JJ only played to light a fire under Jalen, to make Jalen realize, hey, you're not guaranteed minutes.
But he still didn't play well against the Knicks. So, I mean...
And really, he played okay against the Grizzlies. He had some moments, but then he had moments where he had three turnovers in a row.
Yeah. Jalen's been a little bit up and down this year, which we really liked him last year. And I think he'll bounce back, but...
I want to win.
Yeah. In the meantime, has Barea earned the right to get those minutes?
If you're trying to win, I believe you need to go back with JJ. And I understand what that means. That means Jalen kind of goes back to riding the bench, what JJ's doing now.
Yeah.
It sucks, but I want to win. And I feel like JJ gives them the best opportunity to win.
Yeah. I mean, he's a veteran, and I think sometimes they could use a little bit of that.
We just trust when JJ has the ball that something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And he can really help carry that load when Luka can play off the ball a little bit. He's also a veteran when he can tell when Porzingis has got it going.
Yeah.
And he can go to him. Something Luka's still working on, trying to orchestrate the offense. I think JJ, he's got a great camaraderie or relationship with Powell on the court. Mm-hmm. They can play together some. I don't know. I just think JJ should be playing. Again, I know what that means. Jalen's minutes would disappear. But I think if you want to win more, it's got to be JJ.
So we talked about their defense a little earlier. We don't have to spend too much time on this because I know this is like game 10 of the season. But is it too early to start talking about Andre Iguodala? I mean, like, he's out there, and we all know he's not going to be on the Grizzlies when the playoffs come around. So, like, and we don't, like I said, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but is it too early to be thinking about, like, how can the Mavericks get him? Should they get him?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the league.
And he's a veteran, which, again, I think sometimes they could use that.
Yeah, and no, I think you should. You would have to try to get him. I don't know what Memphis is waiting for. I don't know if they think they're going to get a team's first round pick for they're not.
No.
They're keeping
they had
him
to get a first round pick to take him.
Yeah.
You know?
Why they're keeping him?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think you brought out a couple weeks ago that it could be Iguodala who wants to wait to see how the league develops, like which teams are good. I mean, like there's a 99.9% chance he goes to the Lakers.
Yeah, and that was just a theory that I had. I had no proof.
But you know, your sources until your sources.
Sources tell me.
Yeah, so it's like that is a possibility, and like I said, most people expect him to go to the Lakers, and that probably will happen. But if the Mavs make an offer that's appealing because they are so good,
or they're at least in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, he might think about, and I think they should go after him. He would help defensively. I think that would. I don't know. Would he start? Would that make him a clear starter?
Over who? Seth or Dorian?
Well, I mean, it depends on the night, really, because those guys haven't even started every game.
It opens up another thought, which is I think they got to go to Porzingis at the 5.
Oh, yeah.
I think to improve their perimeter defense, they got to have better perimeter defenders out there, at least more of them. Mm-hmm. Right now we have Dorian.
Yeah.
He's our best perimeter defender. He's the only one out there.
And then if they get in the paint, Powell has no resistance.
Exactly.
So,
and right now, because if Powell's guarding the 5 and the 4 is a guy that kind of spreads the floor, it takes Porzingis away from the basket. Yeah. I want Porzingis down low, and I want him protecting the paint.
Yeah.
And I want better wing defenders to help prevent more players going into the paint. So I would want... And if we got Iguodala, it would be perfect. I would want Porzingis at the 5, Finney-Smith at the 4, Iguodala at the 3, Seth and Luka. And I feel like that would be a better defensive team. I think Luka and Finney-Smith and Iguodala are good enough rebounders to help Porzingis to get rebounds, but I think it at least filters all of the people that are driving the paint to Porzingis to help protect the paint.
Yeah, I mean, right now Porzingis is their best interior defender. Like Powell is literally averaging 0 blocks a game. He hasn't registered a single block this season.
He provides 0 resistance.
Yeah, and I feel bad because he's a really nice guy. He's a really cool guy, but he's
Powell.
out there hustling and work, but there's just no resistance. It just does not work. So I mean, like I said, that's a long ways away. But I think when you look at their defense and how terrible it is, if they do want to improve it, I mean, maybe, like we've said, this is like a bridge season. This is not when they make their deep run in the playoffs. This is just
and Iguodala's on the last year of his deal, so it's not like it's a long-term answer.
Yeah, true. So, I mean, they don't need to make any major decisions this year, but just, if they wanted to address it, for whatever reason, I think that's something that might come up later on as the trade deadline gets closer.
Yeah, and depending what your record is, I mean, to me, if you're up there right with the other teams in the West,
if you're top 3 or 4,
you might as well, because you really don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs, and you don't know how Luka's going to respond to the playoffs. He plays his best games when the pressure is on, so he might be able to carry you, through a lot of that. Anyways, that's a long way down the road.
Okay, so I wanted to take a look at their upcoming schedule because it gets a little rough over the next 4 games. They play at Boston, at New York, and then home versus Toronto and San Antonio. Now, the only breaks they might have from those games is, first of all, in Boston, Gordon Hayward broke his hand, unfortunately. So they still have a very good team. They've only lost 1 game so far. So that's going to be a tough game. And then in New York, that's going to be a big game. Just obviously it's New York and Porzingis. That was on your list of one of the most important games this month. But I think even though the Knicks suck, first of all, we know that's not a gimme. And 2, it's in New York. I mean, I think it's going to be a tough environment.
They better win that game. After the way they got beat on their home court, they better go into that game as if it's a game 7 or something and just put that one away. Yeah. The Knicks suck, and there is no reason that they should have beat you.
Yeah. So, even though they are a lowly team, I still think that might be a tough game. And then versus Toronto, obviously, good team. Now, Kyle Lowry broke his hand, so he'll be out. But they still have talent. Pascal Siakam.
He's been having a great.
He's been killing it. Yeah.
He's surprised me. I thought he was gonna have a drop off, but he's actually been really, really good.
Yeah, a lot of people were talking about how, he could take another leap this year. And I was like, the only reason he played well last year is because they had Kawhi
taking all the pressure.
Yeah, so defenses could focus on him. But he's still been great this year. A lot of people
he's way better this year. Yeah,
people are talking about him being most improved player.
Yeah,
even coming from last year. So,
well, didn't he win it last year?
Yeah. So it's like, but that's how good he's been this year. So that's going to be a tough game too, even without Kyle Lowry. But it is at home, and then again at home versus San Antonio. So those 4 games, I mean, I think 2-2 is reasonable, but again, like, they've kind of been a little inconsistent. I'm a little afraid they're going to go 1-3, but I think 2-2 that's my expectation right now.
Yeah, well, they got to play better at home, and the Raptors and Spurs, because they're at home, the Mavericks should be at least favored against the Spurs. The Spurs, I know it's the Spurs, and when you hear San Antonio Spurs, you automatically think juggernaut.
Yeah,
but they're playing okay this year, and Aldridge is not really the same guy.
He's never been the same since he went to San Antonio.
Yeah, and so the Spurs game at home, that's really one the Mavericks should be favored to win, because it's at home, and the Spurs are not.
I mean, they have a better record than the Spurs.
Yeah.
So.
Now by 1 game,
but
now that could change by the time they
true.
actually play each other. But as it stands right now, that should be a win.
They're at least equal, and then they're at home. So,
and again, the Raptors at home without Kyle Lowry, that one should be one that they're favored in. Really, the biggest game,
the hardest game,
is the Celtics in Boston. And then the Knicks, I feel like they're going to win that game, just because you can't lose. You can't go 0-2 against the Knicks this year. No. 2 of their 3 wins can't be against you. So, 67% of their wins are against the Mavericks.
Yeah. I mean, I do, like, they could come and just ball out and completely destroy them.
I think they have to.
Yeah.
I think that they need to, in order to just prove to themselves that they laid an egg last time they played them. So the Boston game, I'm actually expecting. I'm predicting the Mavericks to win in Boston, only because Boston has won 7 in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And usually when you've won 5, 6, 7 games in a row, you just happen to lose one. And it doesn't mean the Mavericks are better than them or whatever. They happen to lose. And I think the Mavericks have been playing better on the road. They've been playing better on the road in hostile environments. So I think the Mavericks might pull that one out. And it would be really good to do that. And then the Knicks. And then, so I think they should 3-1 should be what their record should be out of these 4 games. I
haven't looked at the line, but I would say that they're favored probably against the Knicks, Raptors, and Spurs. So, I mean, mathematically 3-1 is possible.
And Boston is favored right now to win by 3.5 points. But on this, it has the injury report as Porzingis is out, and that's not true. So who knows if the over-under changes. But right now, they're favored to win by 3. So they're predicting a close game.
Yeah. So, and then after that, the Mavs get a little bit of a break. They play Golden State and Cleveland at home. So should be a win. We'll see. And then they kind of have a little bit of a tough stretch that starts after that. They play at Houston, home versus the Clippers, and then at Phoenix, who has been...
And at the Lakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Phoenix has been...
surprising.
I think this is who they... I mean, I don't know.
I don't think they're this good. I get that they're playing well.
And they've had a tough schedule, too.
Yeah, but I think they're going to kind of taper off a little bit. Yeah. I think they're going to be much better than they were last year. And I'm not saying they're going to... the Mavericks haven't really played well against the Suns in the last couple of years anyways.
Yeah.
So in Phoenix, it's going to be a tough win. But...
You're calling it a win, obviously.
Or a tough game.
Yeah.
Tough game, yeah.
So
I feel like they're going to win every game.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah. So these next 4 games, I think they're going to be tough. I hope the Mavs hold it together. Like I said, I think 2-2. You said 3-1.
If we come out of...
If they go 1-3, then I'm going to be upset.
If they come out of these next 4 with a record of 8-5, which would be 2-2,
and then
that's not bad.
Yeah, because then you have 2 games against Warriors and Cavs.
Yeah, and 8-5 is not bad. So it'd be nice if you were 9-4, but I guess that's kind of asking for a lot.
Yeah, I think it's just the losses they've had this year, like the one against the Lakers, it's like, if only the foul, or if Kleba hadn't left Danny Green, or like so many things, or like the one against the Knicks. It's like, for some reason, their losses, they don't feel like sometimes you win some, you lose some. But two of their losses this year so far, it's just felt so avoidable.
They don't feel like win some, lose some games. They feel like, wow,
it's the ones that keep you awake at night.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see if they turn it around. Like I said, there's been some just, oh my God, so frustrating moments. But then there's been some moments that are just amazing. I mean, watching Luka, people are already saying he's top 10 in the league. I don't think he's an MVP candidate, but people are talking like eventually he'll be an MVP.
Maybe not in the media's mind. In my mind, he's an MVP candidate.
Already?
Yes. I mean, what more do you want to see him do? Like,
he is. You brought out the TPA from NBAmath.com. In offensive points added, he's third in the league at 58.98. Now,
overall, he's third.
Yeah, third in the league. And then in defensive points saved, he's 45th. So like, but still, that's when you think of the.
But his overall combined.
Yeah, the TPA total points added. So once you take into consideration the offensive points added and the defensive points saved, he's third overall, 68.26.
Yeah, and so with this, the biggest thing that is really starting to annoy me. I get it. Luka is not the best defender. I'm willing to accept that, but in no way is he the worst defender or a liability on defense. People, they are afraid to put him in the top 10 category because they're always saying, well, he's got to play defense.
Slow foot speed.
Yeah, but they're so quick to ignore the defensive numbers on some of these other superstars like Damian Lillard, who, yes, Lillard is a superstar. I'd take him in a heartbeat. But defensively, he's negative 11.08.
Same thing with Harden.
We don't
even have to talk about that. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Like Luka, I did look up some of his other defensive numbers. So like his defensive rating is pretty bad. His opponent field goal percentage the opponent field goal percentage when he's guarding a guy goes up 4.4%. So it's like he is not a great defender,
right?
But
he is not the
worst. There's a lot of other
superstars
that also are not great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is he Kawhi on defense? No.
Right.
But is he Trae Young? No.
Yeah.
Like, he's not as bad. He's an average defender out there. And that's okay because he's so good offensively that he's third overall in TPA. No one's going to catch Giannis in that. Giannis is in a field all on his own. You know, so what he does offensively and defensively. The thing that bothers me is can we not hold Luka to this standard of defense without holding
other players?
Yes, and it's because he's a European player that automatically they always mention
that stigma
defense. Yes, and it's starting to drive me insane. Like, you know.
Well, thankfully it is a narrative, but at the same time, you know, last year he finished third in All-Star voting. There's plenty of media members who are talking about him as an MVP candidate and a top 10 player. I swear the ringer.com is going to be renamed to like Luka Doncic for MVP.com because they love him.
Yes.
But so like that is a narrative, but I think overall people really do see Luka as an amazing player.
How do you not? I mean,
when you
just
watch
watching,
him,
the guy can do.
It's so easy. It's like so easy for him.
He doesn't even need a step back.
No, yeah.
I mean, he does it because when it goes in, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But if he didn't even do it, he can get to the lane with ease. And he's number one in the league
in the
at finishing. When it was somebody with at least 80 drives or something. So those that drive to the basket the most in the league, he's the best at it.
Yeah, and it's like you'll see the defense, and the defense is laser focused on him when he has the ball. And
it's like it doesn't even bother him.
He drives in it. He gets a wide open layup. It's somehow he's so good. It's so easy for him. Sometimes it's like last night against the Grizzlies. There was a stretch where he was picking them apart with his drives and his passes. It was like watching Aaron Rodgers in a 2-minute drill. I mean, he picks the defense
and there's
apart.
nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do about it. You can set your defense up. You can stay focused. You can do everything right. and in the end he gets a wide open layup or someone gets a wide open 3-pointer, and it's just like he's unstoppable.
Yep. Agreed, 100%. He's up there with the top players in the league. I don't know what number he's at right now. Right now, the way he's playing, the way he's playing right now, he's got to be top 5. That doesn't mean I'm saying he's top 5 in the league, but just the way he's playing right now, these first 9 games of the season, he's top 5 in the league. You cannot tell me that there are 10 people that are playing better than him right now.
Yeah. So, like I tweeted last night that some of these things that we see are maddening, and some of the losses have really sucked. But we
got Luka.
Like being able to watch Luka, it does make things a little bit better because you get to watch him, and you know the future is bright.
And let's not forget Porzingis. I feel like he's not getting any love right now.
We love Porzingis.
I do, and I'm going to make Porzingis my favorite player. Just because Luka Mania is kind of disturbing. Like, seriously, after every game, 9 out of the 10 questions to each player is...
What's it like playing with Luka?
Yes, and every game they got to say the same crap. And
speaking of, Luka is the worst interview.
Well,
he's like, every time... He has the same exact answer to every question. Oh, it was great. Oh, yeah, he's great. I'm glad I got the win. Oh, it's great. It's just great. It's like, that's all he says.
I think that's more because his English is still a work in progress.
With it,
but he also mentioned, I watched one post game, and he goes, "You guys ask me that every question," and I say the same answer.
I get asked
it's great.
that after every single game. Yeah.
So.
Or like sometimes they'll repeat, like a guy will ask a question and then 3 questions later someone else says the same exact question. And he's like, I just answered that.
I say that the best interview is Porzingis. I love his interviews.
Good. He's so honest.
I love it's a breath of fresh air because so many times these players are always just giving these reporters crap because whatever reason. I love his honesty. You know, I appreciate it. And like I said, I'm going to make Porzingis my favorite player because I don't think people show enough love for Porzingis. The dude has been out for 2 seasons. He's trying to work his way in. He was an all-star. He was on his way to being one of the best players in the league. Let's show the guy some love.
Yeah.
Drop the mic. That's it. On that. I'm done. I'll tweet it.
Is true. It's just, I think it's a case of like what happened in Golden State. Like they drafted Steph. He's their guy. Like,
well, it's Luka Mania.
Kevin Durant just was like, he never got the MVP chance. You know.
Yeah, it's Luka Mania. And, and if I ever had an opportunity to ask Porzingis, I would ask him one question about Luka, and that's it, because I know he gets asked about Luka every day. Were you surprised by how big Luka Mania really was? Like we all knew Luka Mania was there. Yeah. But when the season started and it actually hit you, were you even surprised? Like, oh wow, this is crazy. Yeah. And then that's it, and then it'll all be back on him.
All back. Yeah, but no, he is a really good interview. And the thing is, like, players feel like they have to be really careful because media, I mean, some people tend to like twist your words or take it out of context, and I get it. And I feel like Porzingis, he's so honest, but he is very thoughtful. Like you can tell what he's saying. He's still thought about it and it's calculated. So he's not saying anything that he'll regret. It's kind of planned in that way, but he has planned those ideas so that he can be honest.
Well, and he's not giving emotional responses.
No, he thinks about it while he's talking to you.
It's very analytical, yes. Yeah. And he's not going in there. Like, there's some players that are honest. I got to get the ball more. That's just all there is to it. That creates controversy. Yeah. He's saying that, but he's saying it like, I'm still feeling my way. He's very analytical with the way he responds. So I love his interviews. And I love you, KP. And you are my favorite player.
Okay.
I just want to make sure. Oh, he's going to start listening to our podcast. Okay. We're growing.
Okay. Yeah, I really like Porzingis, and I like his attitude. I like the way he's handled his offensive struggles. Like we blame Carlisle because we're fans, and it's what we do. And
it is Carlisle's fault.
It's okay. Like we just talk. You get emotional sometimes. You say crazy things. Like it's fine. There's no need to act like we're not real fans or like.
And we're stuck with Carlisle. Think about what coach out there is available that you would take.
Jim Boylan might get fired at some point.
We're not taking Jim Boylan and watch some
He'll be making the
Men
run
in Black
suicide.
references. Yes, It's just running suicides after every.
Yeah.
They'll be like the movie Miracle after a loss.
Yeah.
They'll be in the gym 45 minutes. So
yeah. So
we don't want that.
Yeah. Okay, that's all. I feel like we've just spent the last 20 minutes just gushing about Luka
and Porzingis.
Porzingis, we like you too.
I love Porzingis.
Yes. But that's it for the episode. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Again, follow me on Twitter at _Sydney Myers.
And me at Martin L. Myers at twitter.com.
That's not how it works.
Oh.
I'll go over that with you. At Martin L. Myers. Follow the show at Dallas Hoopscast. If you're enjoying the podcast, first of all, thank you for listening. Feel free to leave a rating or a review wherever you're listening to this. Check out DallasHoopscast.com for the latest episodes and exclusive articles. That's all. Anything else? No? Okay, good. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.
You said bye.
It was a reaction. I didn't mean to.
I got that.
You better edit that out.
I almost pushed stop.
You're going to edit that out.
I got it. I'm leaving it in.